There's a big old question whether money can bring happiness or not. I know a lot of people have made up their mind and decided whatever they want to decide, but let's take it apart and let's understand the whole concept. Now, when we're talking about whether money can bring happiness, how much money are we talking about? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there are basically five types of people, or in other words, five types of incomes. There are poor people, lower middle class, upper middle class, and rich. Poor people are people who are in the minus. They don't have enough to cover their month. Now, there are lower middle class. Lower middle class defines somebody that makes just about enough to get by. The person has to watch how much they spend. They don't have extra. They have just about enough what they need. But as long as they live, with only buying stuff they could afford, they could cover their month. Then there's middle class, which middle class defines people who could live a little bit more luxury, and they could also save up some money. And then we have upper middle class. In Yiddish it's called Balbatish, which are people who have more and they could live more of a lavish lifestyle. Maybe not totally, with all luxuries, but they could live more with luxurious, and they could have nice savings and more than one house. Those are upper middle class, but they're still not rich. Rich people are people who have a lot. They have an abundance of money. And of course, in every class, there are different, categories. There are a little bit more, a little bit less. Now, the reason why I mentioned this was because there are a lot of people who say, I wish I'll be rich. And the reason why they're saying it is because they're poor. And poverty is a lot of pain. And somebody cannot get by their month, and if somebody needs assistance from other people, it's very painful. Therefore, they are imagining, imagine if I'll be rich, I'm not going to have this pain. Now, they don't realize it's not that you need to be wealthy in order to get rid of this pain. You just don't have to be poor. So if you could get out of your poverty and be even low middle class, meaning you're going to make enough money to cover your month and you're not going to have any debt, then you're not going to have the pain. You might not have all the luxurious, but this pain that the person has, it's not going to be there because you're not poor anymore. So that's why I brought it up, to understand when a person talks about money, how much money you're talking about, and not always the answers go from one extreme to the other. Now I want to ask you a question. If you believe that money can bring happiness, now what if right now I don't have money and I want to be happy? If money is the tool to make a person happy, that means if a person wants to be happy right now, in whatever circumstance the person stands in his life, whatever situation he is in, so if money is a thing to make him happy and he doesn't have money, that means he cannot be happy. So according to that philosophy, that only people with money can be happy, and if a person doesn't have money, he cannot be happy. This doesn't make any sense, because everybody can be happy. Now I want to tell you a story that I had a while back. I spoke to someone, and that guy is very obsessed about money and he wants to become rich. And we had a very long conversation about other things, and then the subject of money came up, and he was busy talking about how he has to be rich, and there's only way he's gonna make it in life if he has money. So I asked him, we're talking now over an hour. Did you enjoy this conversation? He said, yeah, of course I enjoyed this conversation. So what do you need more? The guy was quiet. He didn't know what to answer. Basically, what I showed him straight in his face, how he's so obsessed about thinking that money is going to bring him something, and he never stopped for a second to look what he has. He never stopped thinking and appreciating all the things that he has in life. So he could have a really enjoyable conversation with someone for not just 1 hour, a few hours, and he could have a whole bunch of other things, and the whole time he will not enjoy a second because he will be so obsessed thinking about, oh, I don't have money. So is the money that's going to make him happy? Let's say he gets it. Is money the thing that because he doesn't have it he's not happy? Or isn't he happy because he's an unhappy person? Think about it. When someone is unhappy, then that person is unhappy. If somebody is unappreciative, then he's unappreciative. So what does money come into the picture? An unhappy person will be unhappy in every situation in life. And I had a very similar story with another person. Another person was complaining about money, the same kind of thing. And I started listing to him a whole bunch of things that I know personally in his life, of amazing things this guy has. And I asked him, how come you're not happy about all these things? How come you're not jumping for joy? They have a whole bunch of other things in life. Okay, so money you don't have, but you have a whole bunch of other things in life. This guy was like, I have a point. He kind of also realized. Because it's not the money that was bothering him. It was bothering him because the fact that he never realized, he never thought about what he has. He never appreciated what he has. Now I want to ask you another question. How much money will you be willing to sell your hand? Meaning to say, let's say there is some sort of scientific experiment, with human bodies, and they need a live hand in order to make this study. And apparently, let's say your DNA, you're the exact and best match for whatever experiment they need. Now, what they're offering you is a lot of money. They'll put you to sleep under anesthesia, and you wake up and you're only going to have one hand. You're still going to have a hand. You're just going to miss one hand. How much money will you be willing to sell your hand? You know what the answer is? Even if somebody offers you all the money in the world, nobody is going to be willing to sell their hand. That means even if Elon Musk, he's officially the richest man right now, he comes and he offers you half of his fortune, you will not be willing to sell it. Now, same thing with a leg, the same thing with an eye, the same thing with an ear, with any body part. Now you're going to say, you see people are donating kidneys or livers. Yeah, kidneys are a functionality in the body, and if you have one, you could still live the same as you have two. And liver grows back, so that's not a comparison to, I'm talking about getting a body part off your body that you cannot replace. And there's no other function for it. Why is that? Because there's nothing more valuable for a person than their own body. So you cannot take something that is less valuable and exchange it for something that is more valuable. So money might be very valuable, but is not as valuable for a person like their own body. So now begs the question. If you have so many body parts that is so valuable to you that no money in the world is worth to exchange even for one part, and you don't appreciate that you have that, how are you going to appreciate it if you have money? Explain it to me. You have fingers, hands, feet, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, a tongue, teeth, so many things that is so valuable to you. They're so special. They're everything that means to you. And you don't appreciate that. You're not happy having that. You're not happy that all of these things are functioning. How exactly are you going to be happy if you have a lot of money? That is the answer. That if a person does not appreciate what they have, they will not appreciate money. Because first you have to be an appreciative person. And if a person is appreciative and he has money, therefore he can appreciate money. So it's not the money that makes a person happy, it's the appreciation. Now, to say it in other words, to bring it out better, once a person has something, then that thing loses interest by the person and he needs something more. And to prove it to you, every person that grew up an Orthodox Jew had a bar mitzvah. And every child, when they have a bar mitzvah, they get very excited about it. It's not just before the bar mitzvah. A few years before the bar mitzvah, they're busy thinking about that one day I'm going to be having a bar mitzvah and I'm going to become big and I'm going to put on tefillin. And the child is so excited about it and can't wait for the day that they become bar mitzvah, when they turn 13. And what happened after the child turned 13? If you remember, because it's basically by all of us the same thing. We're all very excited, and then after our bar mitzvah, we didn't see any. What's the big deal now? That is basically how everything in life works. Everything in this physical, material world is the same delusion to us, and we get so excited before we have it, but once we have it, this we have already. So this is not interested anymore. This is not interesting. I need something different. I need something more. To give you another example, let's say your first car. Do you remember when you got your first car? How excited you were. Oh, you're having a car, and you made a whole thing, and you waited for this car for so long, and finally you got it. And then after you had it, the first while you enjoyed it, yeah, and then, booms, it's over. Now you need a better car, an updated car. And same thing if a person buys a house. Everybody's dream is to own a house. And let's say a person he was waiting so long to buy a house, and finally one day he pulled everything together and was able to purchase a house. So which person do you know that he was waiting so long to buy a house, he bought a house and said, oh, now I'm so happy I have a house. Yeah, right after the person bought a house, he's happy. But how long does it last? A few weeks, a few months? What happens that after he bought a house, he sees down the block there's another house for sale? He's thinking, I wish I could buy this house. And who's talking about if next door to him there's another house for sale? And I was thinking, I wish I could buy this house, so I have two properties, one next to each other, and hopefully I'll be able to build and make it a big extension to my house and have a huge house. Now what happened? You had a desire, and you were excited, so you were happy and excited as long the excitement was there, as long you didn't have it. Now, once you have it, you'll enjoy it for a little bit, and then you'll get used to it, and then this is no longer interested. You need something more. And the same thing happens when a person has money. A person has a dream, I wish I could have $1 million. Now, up to the point that you have $1 million, you'll be excited and looking forward for it. You have $1 million, you find yourself $1 million, the beginning it will be very exciting, and then, now I need another million. Like our sages tell us, Yesh lemuna roitzum misayim, which means if somebody has a certain amount of money, he wants double. Because the minimum amount that a person desires is always double that he has. So it means there is no such a thing as anything in this material world can possibly satisfy a person. Because you're always going to want more. So all these examples I just brought was to explain to you that you could see clearly in everybody in their own lives, whatever they had in their past, thinking I want to have this, I want to have that. So try to remember, before you had it, you were excited about it, and then once you got it, the thing became no longer interesting, and you wanted something more. And the same thing will be if somebody makes a lot of money. Before you have the money, you'll be excited about it, and then you will lose interest in it. Now, I want to ask you a question, and I know a lot of people might get very upset about what I'm about to say, and I'm still going to say it. Have you ever envisioned yourself being rich? I'm not talking about, you had a detail over here. Imagine I'll have this, imagine I have that, imagine I have a nice house. I'm talking about thinking to yourself, how is your life going to be from now until I die? Which a lot of people forget that they're going to die one day. How is my life going to play out? Like, what vision do I have if I become rich? Now, I want to start to create a fantasy. So the fantasy, basically how most people have, I'm going to open a business, and the business is going to start seeing great success. I'm going to hire workers, and then the business is going to grow more. I'll have to hire more workers. And then it's going to grow even more, and I'll hire even more workers. And then eventually I'll have a manager and whatever, a CEO running everything. So I'm just going to have to come in a few hours, once a week to make sure everything runs okay. And when I'm going to come in, everybody's going to be afraid of me because I'm the big boss. And everybody's going to respect me. And then I'm going to make even more money. And I'm going to open other businesses and invest in other things until it's going to come to a point that this first business that I had, even though it's so successful, it will be like pocket change to me because I'm going to make so much more money from all other investments. And then, of course, I'm going to build myself a nice big mansion. And not just one mansion. I'm going to have one mansion where I live all year round, and then a house in Florida, and a house in California, and a house in Arizona, and a house, 2-3 hours away in some remote area whenever I want to hop over. So I'm going to have a couple of houses. Each of them is going to be worth in the millions. And not only that, everybody's going to beg me for charity. All the organizations, all the schools. Everybody will have to count with me. Every organization is going to put me on their board. And everybody's going to respect my word. My word is going to have a very strong meaning. And even politicians are going to be coming to my door, trying to get campaign money. And my life will be so glorious. And not only that, we all want to have family and have kids. And the dream is also that one day I'll marry my child. And when I marry my child, it's not going to be just a wedding. And it's not even going to be just an expensive wedding. It's going to be something out of this world. By my child's wedding, I'm going to rent this huge warehouse and going to turn it into a hall because I'm going to need thousands of people to show up. Like the whole community, everybody's going to have to come to my wedding because I'm this rich, famous person. And even though I rented a huge warehouse, but so many people showed up that there wasn't even enough room. Now, of course, because I'm this rich man, I'm going to want the president to come to my child's wedding. But the problem is, if the president comes, the Secret Service, if it comes a whole balagan, it might not be the best idea. So he's not going to come to the wedding. So I'm going to make a Sheva Bruchos in the White House. And then I'm going to make a Sheva Bruchos in the Swiss Alps. And then another Sheva Bruchos in Australia with the kangaroos. And then all the magazines are going to be busy talking about it. And there's going to be pictures, and everybody's going to be speaking about my amazing wedding that I made. It sounds sweet, no? Isn't that the ultimate dream that I just played out? You know, a life of a rich person. And I was talking about a very, very rich person. But, you know, where people get stuck with the question I'm going to ask you right now. And this is the part where you might hate me, because I might bust down your whole dream of your whole life. And that question is, after all that, now what? This is the question that people don't want to think about. In general, when people dream about becoming rich, or about what if they will be rich, they have little details. Oh, I'm going to have a nice house. Oh, I'm going to have this. I'm going to be in boards of organizations. Whatever it should be. It's always little details, and that's where it ends. And then the person continues dreaming about other things. But people never really, they don't want to go into trying to make their whole life, trying to envision what does it mean living like a rich person. Because they don't want to get to the point, to the truth, which the truth is that every rich person gets to that at some point in his life when he asks himself, and now what? It's not just he asks himself, he just finds himself in a situation. He already had everything. As I said before, once you have something, it's no longer interesting, and now you need something more. Now what if you had everything already, and you have nothing more to look forward for? What happens then? So that's why I'm asking, and that's why I made this whole dream. To get to that point, and now what? A while back, Elon Musk, who is officially the richest man in the world, and he's so rich that there's probably nobody even as rich as half of his money. Again, but the numbers keep on jumping up and down, but he's very, very rich. And he was saying for a long time that he wants to be the first trillionaire. And when I heard that, I asked, okay, and after he's going to become the first trillionaire, then what? He's going to go jump off the bridge? Where's he going to go after that? He becomes the first trillionaire. Okay, congratulations, everybody's going to cheer for you. You became the first trillionaire. And now what? And go look what happened. At some point, apparently the Forbes, I didn't follow exactly, but I think they reported like his stock value reached to $1 trillion. And what did he post afterwards? That the people who say, I don't remember exactly the words, those who say that money cannot bring happiness knew what they were talking about. So apparently, it took him so long, so many years to realize that money cannot bring happiness, but he realized it. Why is that? For exactly what I just explained to you. Because once you have something, that thing is no longer interesting to you. And when you have everything, you don't know where to go further. And you get to the point, now what? And that's what happened to him. He already got to the point that most rich people, not just most big billionaires will never even get close where he got to. And now what? Where is he going to go next? What is his next accomplishment? What does he have to look forward for next? And you can see the same thing with all the celebrities. Most of them, as far as I know, end up on drugs. Why? For the same exact reason. They've been chasing this fantasy of becoming famous, becoming this Hollywood star, and they thought that this is going to make them happy, and then now they have it. Is now what? Where am I going next? And the answer is because if you don't appreciate what you have, you cannot appreciate money. If you're not an appreciative person, you will not appreciate anything. And the sages even tell us, who is the rich man? Somebody that is happy with what he has. If a person wants to live with satisfaction, then the person should always look what he has. Because if a person looks what he has, that person is satisfied and happy about himself. And every person has something in life. You're going to start looking at it, you'll see it. There are people who decided that they cannot be happy only if they have a lot of money. And some people actually believe that. You know what I say about those people? Those people basically sentence themselves to a lifetime of misery. Meaning to say, if, God forbid, somebody is in trial and, and the judge sentenced that person to a certain amount of time in prison, and then he knocks on I forgot the name of that thing, I sentence you for this and this amount of time. That person basically was his own judge, jury, prosecutor, and lawyer. The whole thing together, he by himself went and decided, I'm going to live my whole life miserable. You know why? Number one is, most people don't become rich. But maybe he will become rich, because you never know. Those people will become rich. You never know who's going to become rich. Now, let's say they will become rich. The fact is that they're not appreciative of what they have. They will not appreciate money. As I started with the first question, what if I want to be happy now? And then all other questions I asked. What would you sell your body parts? And how many times did a person think about their family? If you're married and you have kids and they're healthy and they're growing up and you're seeing nachas, isn't that a thing to be happy for? Isn't that a thing to be appreciative? So if a person has all these amazing things and is busy thinking about, money is going to make him happy and otherwise I cannot be happy, that means the person sentenced himself to a lifetime of misery. He doesn't want to be happy. So if he becomes rich, it will be the same miserable. It won't change anything. And I say even more, that a poor person, in a way, is more lucky than a rich person, because a poor person still has what to dream for. And the rich person doesn't have what to dream for. He already reached everything. The poor person can still think, imagine one day if my life changes around and I'll have great success and I'll accumulate a lot of wealth and then my life, woo. So he has something to dream for. But the rich person, he has nothing but to dream for. So the fact that you have what to dream for, that by itself is a good thing. I don't know if you ever heard about this concept of writing down every day things you're grateful for. But I heard that concept years ago and I started doing it, and it did help me a lot in life. The idea is, what I say is, write down every day 3 things that you're grateful for in the morning. The best thing is in the morning. So you start your day with positivity. And what I say about 3 things that you're grateful for. So I could start, just to give you an example and explain to you how that's gonna change your mindset if you're gonna do it. If you start thinking to yourself, I'm grateful the fact that I was able to get out of bed, because there are people that can sadly not get out of bed. I'm grateful that my whole body is functioning. And then you could start listing each and every part of your body. Your eyes, your ears. Every day you wake up and it works again. It's all functioning. It's a new miracle. It's a new thing what to be grateful for. And then as you start preparing for the morning, most people drink coffee or tea. So you think about the coffee. It's not just the coffee. You have hot water. You have coffee. Most people put sugar or other things. So you have the sugar, you have the other thing. You have the milk. You have the cup. You have the spoon to stir it. There's a whole bunch of things just in that coffee. And then when you take a shower, the fact is you have a shower. You could adjust the temperature. There's the things that people are taking so for granted. We're so used to it. Like we were born and raised with this concept of, we get up in the morning, we take a shower, and we adjust the shower to our comfortability, a little hotter, a little colder, and it just goes. But you have to be appreciative. Imagine one day you wake up and your shower doesn't work. The same thing, let's say you go to mikveh and the shower doesn't work over there. Whichever way it should be. So the small little things that we use every day, that we have both parts, both are attached to our body and external. All these things, start recognizing them and start appreciating them. So write down every day 3 things. And when I say write down, nobody else should be able to read this. It's not meant for everybody, for anybody. So you can write the most private things you want to think about. Whatever you feel that is so private to you and nobody else has to know it, write those things down. And try to write every day different things. So you're not going to repeat yourself constantly. You should constantly recognize all the things. And after a month, you could start again with the same things. And the reason why it's not good to repeat again the same thing is because if you can repeat the same thing, you're not going to really recognize all the things you have. All the small details, like I just counted. The fact that you have a shower and you could adjust the temperature, and most people have a faucet they could adjust, whether stronger, weaker, or other ways. You have a towel afterwards. Imagine you took a shower and there's no towels. So, so on and on and on. And if a person does that, the person is going to start living with gratitude. And that's something a person has to do, is to live with gratitude. Not only that, there are studies that shows that if somebody lives with gratitude, have higher positive emotions, they sleep better, and their physical health is better. So living with gratitude has a physical effect on the person. For your own health, for your own everything, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, is an amazing thing to live with gratitude. Now, to try to sum up this whole conversation, because a person is poor, wealth is not the answer. Money cannot bring happiness. To answer the question, no, money cannot bring happiness. Money can bring comfort and joy, but not happiness. But if a person is not an appreciative person and he doesn't appreciate what he has, he will not be able to appreciate the comfort and joy that money will bring him. Now, if you disagree with me and you claim that money can bring happiness, so how about start living with gratitude and let's disagree. But first start living with gratitude. And then we'll discuss whether money will make you happy or not. But first live with gratitude. Now, the satisfied person is the person who lives with gratitude. And the happy person and the uplifted person is a person that lives with spirituality. And the first step of spirituality is appreciation and living with gratitude. And how do I know it? Because go look what we're doing the first things in the morning. The first thing in the morning, an Orthodox Jew wakes up and he washes his hands and says, Moida Ani, I thank you, Hashem. Then there is Birchas HaShacher, which you have to make even before you start davening and read Krishma. What is that? Blessing. First blessing, that he gave us the mitzvah of washing our hands. Second blessing, that I'm healthy. Third blessing, you returned my soul to me. And then you bless Hashem for giving us the Torah. And then when you start davening, before you actually start the prayer, there is this 15 blessings that we say, like right in the beginning of davening. We say Matoivi Adoin Olam, and then we say 15 brachas. Have you ever thought about those 15 brachas? How about buy a siddur that teaches you the translation if you don't know the meaning of the words, and focus to have the kavanah to understand these brachas and say it and mean it when you say it. And forget about having kavanahs on the whole davening. First focus on the kavanahs of those 15 brachas. This whole 15 brachas is a gratitude that you have, that Hashem gave you all these amazing things. So even when I said, and it's not just something that I say, a lot of people say about this concept of writing down every day a few things that you're grateful for. It's the spiritual concept, the spiritual essence. The first thing we do in the morning is we express ourselves, our gratitude to Hashem. So just think about it. Think about how grateful you are that you have all these amazing things. And write down 3 things. So there's a lot more to spirituality. If somebody really wants to be happy and live a happy life, the happy person is a person that lives with Hashem and lives with spirituality. But the first step of spirituality is appreciation. So if you want to become a spiritual Jew, start appreciating what you have and start living with gratitude. And living with gratitude is not just saying it, it's meaning it. Have a wonderful day.